All right, we've got Scotty with us here today at the National Quartet Convention. We're live, so you may hear some background noise here. We love the noise. We love the crowd. So we want to just kind of talk with him a little bit today about his ministry, where he's been, where he's going with this. So Scotty, tell us a little bit about your history, how you got in the industry, your music, and a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a second generation singer, so my dad's been singing my entire life. I don't know life without gospel music.
Wow.
So I was going to concerts before I knew even what it was, and before I was even saved. So, so I grew up in it. Didn't want to sing. wasn't much of a singer. Wanted to be an athlete, but at the age of 16, I felt the call to be in the ministry, and I didn't think I was going to be a preacher. But I knew I could sing because I'd sing around the house and in the shower and in the car. But it wasn't that easy. I had stage fright. I wasn't going to get in front of people. I would have rather done something very painful than to get on stage and sing in front of somebody. But God, again, gave me the desire to do it. I worked through the fear and the torment of doing it. And a few years later, I was at the Chop House at Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, where we are now. And not the Chop House, but Pigeon Forge.
Right.
And Phil Cross from Phil Cross and Pull Up Voices walked in.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "Hey, Mr. Phil, I'm Scotty Inman. I'm Clayton Inman's son." He knew my dad. And I said, "I want to sing if you ever need a singer." Well, 2 weeks later, I got a phone call.
Wow.
He was needing a singer. And so I tried out at Dollywood. So in my own hometown, I'm sitting there singing at Dollywood with Pull Up Voices. Get the job a year and a half later. I'm with them for a year and a half. A year and a half later, the Lord lays it on Eric Bennett, David Sutton, and the late Jeff Stice.
Yes.
Here with the Kingdom Heirs to start a group. They asked me and my dad to join them, and that was 21 years ago.
Wow.
And as of September the 1st of 2023, I've stepped away from that into a solo ministry, and I'm really excited. I just feel like this is a fresh, fun new season that God has kind of groomed me for. So
yeah, it's amazing how the Lord just puts those pieces together on the back, and I can relate to that. Remember when God calling me into the ministry, I'm like, I can't stand in front of anybody, and you want me to be in front of crowds, and it's just amazing how the Lord.
The fright was intense.
It's real.
Yeah, it's intense.
It's real, and so just amazing how the Lord, He knows how to get us through that, move us through those things. So obviously you've got the background that's been there, and the Lord's kind of leading you. Tell us a little bit about what you feel like the Lord's leading you to do now as far as a single and in ministry. How do you see that fitting God's plan for you right now?
I think one reason why I left Triumphant has a strong ministry. I mean, quartets are known maybe of being entertaining, and we were entertaining as well, but we had a strong ministry base.
Yes.
Eric is a former pastor, but saying that, in a quartet setting, it's hard to do some things and hard to get your foot in certain settings. Sure. And I found just in songs I was writing and ways I was wanting to go about the music, I was wanting to get into kind of bridge a gap between the youth and the older generation, and maybe with my music and the way I present the music. So that's kind of my passion. I don't want to desert one for the other, but I do have a desire to reach both, which I know we all do. That's the big taboo. How do you do it? But I really feel like it's how you. There's ways of doing both. You don't have to have segregation worship. I really feel like the church, has gone from, build a Sunday morning service for each, and I really feel like my desire is to try to go into a place where there's a lot of different ages and bridge a gap musically and with things I say.
Yeah. I definitely see what you're saying. It's somebody we've tried to segregate generations.
Yeah.
And I think going against what the Scripture says, the older generation should be
absolutely
teaching the younger generation. Yeah. And when we separate them, we lose that. And I think music is an important part of that.
Music has been known to be a unifier. I mean,
yes.
Where else can you see 100,000 people gathered in one place listening to an artist, or, yes. it's at times it can be a divisive thing, and sometimes in the church, unfortunately, it can be a divisive thing. But I do think music has a great power to bring people together.
Yeah, and I definitely, and you're relating to your past and having been in ministry and around ministry your life. Mm-hmm. I had the same growing up and being around that, but I also remember hearing a lot of these groups for all these years, and being able to have multi-generations in there hearing that and impacting it together, I think is crucial, which again, with our network and what we're trying to do, we're trying to reach this next generation, but at the same time connecting that older generation who can feed into them. And that is just important, I believe, because I think that's how God set it up. I think that's how God set the church up for us to do that as well.
Yeah, and I agree. And I want to say, too, I'm involved heavily in my church. I was part of a church plant 3 years ago, and me and my wife are co-worship leaders. And I want to say this, being a part of a church, a community, and seeing what the need is, what they relate to, what they don't relate to, well, that's every church. I mean, I say every church. That's the majority. Each community is built up of these people with these needs. And I think sometimes when you are a artist that travels too much and you're not grounded in the church, it's hard for you to really know when you get there. I think being involved in a church kind of gives me a leg up on maybe what they're looking for. Not a build of Jesus, like what they're wanting to hear, but what needs to be done in the church. And so I feel like sometimes when you work too much and you're not getting fed, you can say, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, but then you go into a church and they can't relate to what you're saying or singing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It definitely makes sense. I appreciate that, because I do think I know He's ordained the church, and that's where it needs to be. So having that understanding, and communities are different. You go to one area and you minister in another area, so to be able to tie in that, the gospel message, but staying related to where that community is crucial. So having a grounding from a church perspective helps to go through. I know it helps us as I go to different churches. I'm able to walk in and say, okay, let me understand your culture, where you're at, and let's see what we can do to help you. And again, this has been myself growing up around gospel music, Christian music my whole life. It is a major part of how God uses to speak to our souls, our spirits, and gets us lined up. And the music really, you study Scripture, the Old Testament is just full of music and how it related to worship. So obviously being a part of a church and a worship leader, how do you see music in church and how it's related and how you can take that out to the community as well?
Well, here's one issue I have. Here's one issue I see is a lot of people are listening to different types of radio. So when I go into church, as much as I would love to sing the songs of the Redback hymnal, the church I'm a part of right now, the people who are coming in are going, So I think
no idea what that is.
Yeah. And so you can have what you like, and you can have what you think will minister to the church. And so it's introducing songs. Obviously, biblically true songs is where it's got to be. You've got to make sure everything's biblically true. Try to incorporate a little bit of everything, but just making sure that if they're hearing it on the radio, then they can come in and worship immediately with it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Now, sometimes that means you're singing songs necessarily that you're not in your style, but it's not about you.
Right.
It's about getting everybody in worship for 15, 20 minutes a week, and all kind of singing together and worshiping the Lord and getting out of the way of what you want. And it's the same with the congregation. It's trying to, hey, it's not about you today.
Yeah. It's about the music, about the word. Yeah, one of the things that we do in picking the music that we play, it's got to be doctrinally correct.
Absolutely.
And it's got to have a message that relates to people today.
Yeah.
And then somewhere down there, the genre, the style, it's there if it has to be the specific station that we're doing. But it's not in that top level, because again, if we're not ministering to the people, if we're not giving them the message that they need, they're not listening to it, then we're wasting our time because it's something we like.
Absolutely.
So it's about moving there. So tell me a little bit about, obviously, solo career now. So how do you envision the music that you are kind of putting together, the package of music that you feel like that you think is making a difference in what you want to do?
Well, so far what I plan to keep doing is, it's the gospel simple. It's a simple, and so I really feel like my music and the lyrics of the music are simple. They're not hard. It's going to be hard to understand. A new Christian can come in, put in my music, and go, I understand this. I get this. and it has a country edge to it. I won't say rootsy, but just a country edge to it. Layers of worship as well. My first single that's coming out off of Day One Records around the January time is a very, very country-esque song, but with a nice layer of worship in it, and even in the wording. And so I'm again trying to bridge a gap of Southern gospel and worship. Not all the time, but again, just trying to be going to communities and not be like just off the wall or something they can't even relate to. Sometimes quartet music, they can't relate to that.
Right.
It's too far this way, too far that way. Just trying to be the best middle ground I can be. So.
Good. Well, I appreciate that because, again, I know, and I think you mentioned it earlier, when you're in a group, the dynamic is one thing, but as an individual, you can be able to bridge those gaps, I think, a little bit better in that way.
And I have a desire, too, when I go into a place, knowing where I'm at. Some people have the and maybe I'll get there years down the road when I hope one day when years down the road if there's enough songs that I have to sing, then my set dictates itself. But as it is now, I can go into if I'm in a convention type crowd, I know what I need to do. If I'm in a Sunday morning that ain't got a clue what genre I'm a part of and don't care, I'm gonna have to steer it a different way. Just kind of having that freedom to do that.
Good. And I appreciate that. Yeah. So if someone were to find your music, where would they find your music?
ScottyInman.com, and I'm on all the streaming platforms. The album is entitled "Anywhere Jesus Is." That's my current album, and it's my current single. The title cut. And I don't know when this will air, but there will be a new single coming out in January. And there will also be a new album coming out spring of 2024.
Awesome. So. Yeah, and our audience will know we'll have the link to your site on our website. So our audience can go to our website and see that. And obviously we will keep everybody up to date.
Awesome.
So they'll be able to contact you, get some information. Touring schedule, is that?
Yeah, we're touring planning about 60 concerts a year. One reason why I left the group was to be more present in my home church. And also, obviously, as a family man, better husband and father. Hopefully, being home more will make me a better husband.
Well,
hopefully, it don't turn the other way. But the plan is for me to come home and do that. So we're cutting down where I used to do 160 with the group, cutting it down to 60, and just traveling anywhere and everywhere. I think we have some California. We have some 2 weekends in a row. One's far east and one's far west. So we'll go anywhere and everywhere.
Those are fun things to do. Definitely. So you'll want to go on there if they're anywhere near you. I recommend that you definitely go. Try to catch their concerts, listen to music. We appreciate what you're doing, your background, and now the music that you're producing because it does fit what we're trying to do and reaching this next generation with the truth. Simple.
Yep.
It's just simple. It's not complex.
Simple truth.
To be able to do that, it does make a difference. So thank you for stopping by the booth.
Thank you.
Doing this quick interview with us, and we really appreciate your ministry and look forward to being able to maybe in the future do some more with you guys.
Would love it. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.